Hello, everybody. Everybody online and everybody here in Trenton. Hope everybody's staying safe in the storm. This is our presentation on data miner and the confirmed discharge notification form and the GIN online services. There we go. So I'd like to welcome again everybody who's here in person and all of the webinar attendees. People should realize that we, the CECs, the continuing education credits, we have applied for 1.5 regulatory credits. We have not gotten approval for these credits yet. When we do, you have to check with the LSRPA webpage. They will let you know when everything is approved. It will also be on the department's the LSRP board page. We compile a list of everybody who takes this class in person and on the webinar. We will email people the link to the webinar, the LSRPA webpage to get the instructions. There will be a $25 processing fee by the LSRPA. So what is the process? This has not been approved yet. It will occur after this training. Here is a sample of the webinar quiz slide. When this will come up 4 times during the presentation. When we see this, you'll have to answer your question. They will be like this: skydiving without a parachute may be hazardous to your health, true or false, and you would answer true. Important reminders, please, for the people here in the audience, please mute your cell phones. If you have to take a call, please go outside. We will have question and answer period after each of the presenters. Again, remember to sign in and out for the people here so you can get credit, and please fill out the evaluation form. So I am going to continue talking about the LSRPA their slides, because the representative couldn't make it here because of the storm. So this is some of the people who are sponsoring the presentation. Some more. I'd like to thank them. To renew your license, you must have 36 continuing education credits. This is what they must be: 3 credits in ethics, 10 regulatory, 14 technical, and 9 can be whatever you like. The 3 ethics credits are given in a course 6 times during each year, in each 3-year license period, rather. Twice a year. They just held one in January. They're held throughout the state. And the LSRPA offers the original longest continuously run LSRP ethics course. Public service announcement: carefully track your CECs for each renewal cycle. Most common issue is timing. The application is due 90 days prior to your license expiration date, and the CECs must be completed at the time you make your application. There are several online options if time is tight. Some upcoming LSRPA courses. There's one in April. It's a 2-day course. There's another course, April 24th and October 23rd, due diligence in New Jersey. And on September 17th, there's an ethics course. Please visit the lsrpa.org for registration information. Some recent LSRPA initiatives: there's a members breakfast held throughout the state. Check lsrpa.org for the locations. There's a link now on the LSRPA website for monitoring wells lost but not forgotten. There's other links on the LSRPA website, the historic fill white paper, and the LSRP comments on changes to mandated LSRP audit procedure. And there's a LSRPA initiating a soundboard for local environmental commissions. There's a CE tracking spreadsheet tool. There's dispute resolution and a sounding board. Visit their website and find out about it. Social media is not just for kids. The LSRPA has, they're on Facebook, they're on LinkedIn, and they're on Twitter. Please get involved. Volunteers are wanted, and these are a list of their committees. And I would like to now thank you. And Tyrone is, I'd like to, we're now going to move right along to the data miner talk that will be given by Tyrone Jordan. The presentation today, we've asked for regulatory credits because a lot of the information the LSRPs need can be found on the data miner reports, information that's important to keep in compliance with what you need to do. We also, I would like to thank Tyrone for his help in doing this, and here he goes.
Thank you, Lynn. Good afternoon. My name is Tyrone Jordan, and I'm here to discuss Data Miner, your key to accessing SRP information. The screenshots today are a resource. So today we're going to be showing you a decent amount of screenshots to convey the information to you and to get our points across. There's just no way around this, but we'll get through it. Additionally, this webinar will be recorded and posted on our training page. So if you'd like to reference the material later, you may do so. Next slide. Data Miner it's dynamic, meaning that you're able to search our database in real time. So if a staff member here enters that we've received a submission, for example, you will see it instantaneously. So why is Data Miner important to you? So we want to ensure a fast and smooth online submission for you. You can determine if a facility exists in our database. You can also check to see if a communication center number has been processed by the New Jersey Department of the Environmental Protection, and that way you can do your online CDN submissions. We have other useful reports. We're not going to go over all of them today, but we'll go over some which we believe are essential to you. And it also helps you and your client comply with the rules. We have two ways of accessing Data Miner reports. The first method is to click on the Data Miner link, which is found on the department's main webpage. And so we've provided the link for you on the left. You would search by category by clicking the second link there. And from the drop-down menu, you would select Site Remediation there. You click on the Submit button and to access the Data Miner reports, which should be seen on the screen below. The second way to access Data Miner is through the SRP main webpage. Notice the web link at the top of the page. You would enter that link, and after clicking that link, you would see a list of reports such as what you see on the screen there. The text links that are in black now, they used to be direct links that would link directly to the corresponding reports. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of good reports to use, but we're just going to discuss a few of them today. The only active links now are the Site Remediation Data Miner reports and the Incidents and Complaints reports. After clicking the Site Remediation Data Miner reports link from the previous page, you end up here. The first useful report that we'll discuss today is the Case Tracking Tool by LSRP. This report will enable you to identify incomplete and past due tasks associated with the case for which an LSRP has been retained. When you click on this first blue hyperlink, you'll be asked to input your 6-digit license number. Insert your license number here. And a helpful hint that I want to share with you today is that you should unclick the box that says View Report by Pages. When you unclick the checkbox, the information will be on a longer page but it will be all on one page. You'll see the following message when you unclick the checkbox in blue stating because the reports can be very large, it is recommended that view report by page option be checked in most cases. Don't worry about that. It's okay. The good news is you no longer see this screen. Instead, you get this one. Note, if you're staring at the screen for too long, you should try to run this report either early in the morning or late in the evening. So if you're doing this report, running this report at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, just remember, so is everyone else. This next slide shows the results of the case tracking tool by the LSRP. As stated earlier, you'll be able to see upcoming and past due tasks associated with the case for which the LSRP is retained. Notice the second to the last row where the completed date is blank. This indicates that the next thing due is a remedial action report. Oh. Okay. We're going to have to. Yes.
It was. Okay, everybody, here is the first quiz question. Is he up? Okay, so the case tracking tool by LSRP enables the requester to identify incomplete, upcoming, and past due tasks. So, the answer, does everybody in the audience, do you think this is true or false? Guys, true, false? We just discussed this on the previous slide. We were talking about what the case tracking tool enables people to do. And I now have to discuss this now for, most people are saying true, but it could be false. And how much more time do I have?
30 seconds.
There it is, 30 seconds. Okay, so we'll be doing this 3 more times during the presentation. So everybody needs to be prepared on the webinar to answer these difficult questions. And we have another 10 seconds to go. So I hope everybody stays safe on their drive home, which I'll be saying a lot throughout these next few quiz slides. And we are now at 58, 59, and 60. So done with that. And the answer to this question is true. I'm now turning this back over.
Thank you.
You're good.
Okay. Our next report is the data miner report of the Ellis License Site Remediation Professional Comprehensive Report. This report shows what cases you have been retained for and what reports have been submitted. You want to click on the second blue hyperlink. You want to enter your license number at the prompt, but you want to leave the view report by pages checkbox checked. And I want you to notice something. This is the result of that search. In the upper right-hand corner, these are our latest features in Data Miner. You can either choose to download the data in either PDF or Excel format to your desktop. Choose a format that will allow you to search more easily. Excel is my preference. For example, in Excel, you will get a lot of information from all of the pages on the spreadsheet so that you can view and search the whole report. Notice there are several tabs across the top of your screen. The first tab, which is highlighted in blue, it lets you know where you are. It indicates that you are viewing documents submitted by the licensee. Notice there are 6 pages associated with this case, so you should note that there are other pages beyond this page for this report. In this report, you'll see the status of the document review, when we received it, when we inspected it, and what type of review, if any, we have done for it. The next tab is active projects assigned by the licensee. Notice on this report there are 2 pages. Other tabs you might find useful, but you can check for them after the presentation, are located on the right side of your screen. This is our retention tab, if you will, because it shows what you have been retained for. Every case that you've been retained for should be listed here. If not, you should contact Bureau of Case Assignment or Initial Notice, BCAIN. If there's a case that you've been dismissed for and it's listed here and it's not listed here, you should also contact BCAIN. If there's a case that you've retained for yourself and it isn't listed here, then you should also contact BCAIN. Next is the Financial Obligation Summary report. This report is listed under the LSRP section. It's the first blue hyperlink. You're going to enter your PI number, and the first report here shows that no fees or bills are due. This is another example of a financial obligation summary report, and this lets you know whether you should issue an RAO. If fees were due, you would not be able to issue an RAO. If you have unclicked the View button by pages on the previous page, this report would come out on one page. Again, if any information is incorrect, please contact BCAIN. Notice how the number 2 is highlighted at the top of this page. It is there to show you that this report is 2 pages in length, so don't forget to hit tab 2. The next group of reports include site search reports by PI address, PI name, and PI number. Here, we will be running the all SRPs by selected PI address report first. Later on, Scott Tyrell will be referencing reports that I showed you how to run. So all of these pages have a green star, and you'll notice that in the upper right-hand corner of these slides. You want to click on the first blue hyperlink under Site Search Reports, enter the address at the prompt, and I want you to remember that less is more. So instead of entering 10 Main Street, we want you to enter Main ST. This way, more choices will display that you can select from. On this page, we uncheck the Report by Pages checkbox. And here's an example of the results that we received. Notice the 3-way that street displays. Like on the first highlighted row, we see Main ST Southwest. On the second highlighted row, we see Main Street, with streets being spelled out. On the third highlighted row, we see Main ST. If you had typed out street, only the middle highlighted row would have displayed for you. Our next report is all SRP sites by selected PI name. We will click the second blue link. We will enter the PI number, the PI name in the field. And the third report that we have is all SRP sites selected by PI number. We will click the third blue hyperlink. We will enter the PI number in the field provided, and the page shows our results. Notice the Click for Details hyperlink on the right side of your screen. You will click that link, and the following site detail report will display. We're interested in the tank information, which is the last highlighted row. Notice how it says UST registration profile. We want to click for details on that row at the bottom right. And the UST tank summary report will be displayed here. Here, you will get information regarding the tanks at that site, including tank ID, size, contents, status, and tank status date. Our next case tracking tool is by selected by PI number. Here's another green star. Scott will be referencing this report later. We will click the hyperlink, which is the case tracking tool, by selected PI number, enter the PI number when prompted, and this is the result of that search. Notice how each activity or case, if you will, has a schedule associated with it at the top. In the section underneath the schedule, you will see the due date for each task and its completed date. You will also notice how the RIR has a completed date. So if it was an open task, then that would mean the RI is due and you haven't satisfied that task. If it has any information on this screen that is incorrect, again, contact BK. Next, I'd like to discuss our underground storage tank reports. Since we currently have 18 reports in this section, you'll need to scroll down to the regulated underground storage tanks facilities by PI number. It's incredibly important to run this report. If you want to know what tanks are on your property, then you need to run this report. When submitting remedial phase reports, you'll need to review this report for reconciliation of tanks on your property. When issuing an RAO, you must make sure that your tanks match this report. You're going to click the hyperlink Regulated US by PI number. Enter the PI number at the prompt. And once the report displays, you can click the tank registration summary. Remember, this is the information that we have. If you have something different, you need to contact BK. The underground storage tank summary that displays here shows the tanks that we have registered here at the department. This is the same information that I showed you earlier. And here's another green star. So this is information that Scott Tyrell will be referencing. This is the incidents and complaints report. You will need to know the follow-up status of your communication center number, your Comm center number, to complete an online CDN. Once you go back to the SRP page, you will be able to click the incidents and complaints link and click search by category, or you could access the Yes, you can access this from the main web page, this link, the incidents and complaints link, from the main web page by clicking the incidents and complaints link at the bottom of the page. Thank you. And then from data miner, you can search by category, and you will be able to access the incidents and complaints link, which will refresh and give you the incidents and complaints report. Okay, so you can search incidents by address. You can search incidents by number. You can also search incidents by county and date. When you've called the hotline in the past, you may have received a number and it has been called the incident number. Not anymore. We're trying to, that number you should refer to as the Comm center number or communication center number. We're trying to use that term throughout our presentation today, so we're just trying to get you familiar with that term. So it's the Comm center number or communication center number. Another note is that our incidents module dates back to 2002. So if you're looking for a Comm center number that's before 2002, it will not be listed here. The last report where you see the incident ID, don't try to enter your Comm center number there because it won't work. It's not the right number. So let's do a search by address. So remember, again, less is more. So instead of entering 10 Main Street, enter Main ST to receive more choices to select from. Notice For the date range, I have a 3-month window. You could do a longer range or for a year, but the longer the report is, the harder it has to work. So we have over 15 years of data, and you don't want to wait that long for your report to load. So you could also search by the communication center number. Notice the format. You will be able to look up the information instead of calling DEP. So essentially, we are teaching you how to fish instead of giving you the fish. So an alternative way is to search by incidents by county and date. You would insert the county, again, a date range. Notice we have a 3-month date range, and if this is the result of that search. If the incident has not been processed by DEP, you'll know in 2 ways. One, it'll be a short report. For instance, this has 1 page in length, and the follow-up status will be empty. So this is a second result. Notice how this is 2 pages long, but the follow-up status is still empty. So that means that the department has not processed the Comm Center number yet. Okay, notice on this report, this result, that it's 2 pages in length and that the follow-up status says pending LSRP. You will be able to submit an online CDN in this case. The status has to say pending LSRP if you're to complete the online CDN. Scott will discuss that later. Notice the green star. So, I wanted to show you one more example. If your follow-up status says LSRP central file and you have a program interest number, the Comm Center number has already been claimed and it's linked to a PI.
Okay. The test question now is, I hope everybody's paying attention, there is only one way to search for an incident using Data Miner. So, I've already heard answers from the audience. Seems like they were paying attention to Tyrone's presentation. Hope everybody else is doing the same in this very snowy, very cold day. We now have 50 minutes, though, to chit-chat on what's going. 50 seconds. It feels like 50 minutes. It's only 50 seconds. Sorry, everybody. So there will be 2 more quiz questions as the day goes on. You just need to pay attention when they come up. Hope everybody's enjoying all the knowledge that Tyrone is giving you and figuring everything out. We seem to be having a good response from everybody on the online system. We have a few seconds left for the people who have not finished. And ready? And we are done. And the answer to the quiz question is, false.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Our next data miner report is searching by lot and block. So you would click on the first link there, and you would click on the Advanced tab at the top of your screen, and the following page will be revealed. You'll have an opportunity to enter your county, your municipality, your block, and your lot. Notice the red arrow pointing to the green button on the side. This is the result of that search. And when you click on that green button, the PI number will be revealed on your left. And then from there, you can use your search for your online submissions. So I just want to say that running data miner reports to check if your facility already exists in the department database is important. If it does exist, it'll show up in the facilities report and you'll be able to do your online submissions. So if it does not exist in the report, then you'll need to complete a CDN to obtain a PI number and a case. So that is my presentation for today. So are there any questions that you have for me?
So we'll start with people in the audience. Any questions? Okay. So I will start with the questions online. The export to Excel or PDF does not work for every report. They download as some kind of text file. Is there a fix for this? I think this is the first time we have been made aware of this by the quizzical looks on the people that are here. So I would say we would get back to you later. Tomorrow we'll look into that. Or maybe Thursday if our office is closed. What is the tank status date? Is that the date of install or date of removal? I believe the date, the status date is depending on the status of what you have, that would be what the date is. If it says that the tank is active, that's the date of install. If it says the tank is closed, that's the status it was closed. How do you search the communication center numbers associated with a specific PI? So if you have a PI already where the comm center numbers are linked, they will show up in your site search reports. And that is the best way that I know how to search for that. Yes?
But where will it show up in the site search report? Where will it show up in the site search report? How do you more specifically find it?
So, can we go back to the presentation? Hold on one second. So go back to the other question. The person who said the tank status, since these are in use, these tank status is the date that the tanks were installed. I believe some of the incidents will come up with the PI name here that for regulated tank cases that would show up there because that was our naming protocol. In the document title here, that's where it's showing up some of the incidents. That is because of our naming protocol. That's one way to find them. I also think that I think that's the only way. Wait, hold on.
On this slide, do you find them do you click for details? Do you click there and they're found in there? Is that what you do?
If you click for details, you will get specific information for each of the cases, and then you can click in for more information. There's a number of buttons now that allow you to drill deeper and deeper into a case.
And is that where you find the comm center number?
It depends if it's linked there in the name. I believe it's in.
Let's do a step by step.
I think it's in our naming protocol. But we will get back to that person as well tomorrow. Put back the question. Whoops. There. Next. So any other questions? Whoa. Is the block and lot information tied to current numbers or the numbers in place at the time the communication number was called in? The block and lot information is tied to the site information. So whatever the current information is submitted in our database, that's what it's pulling from. So if it has not been updated, then it's the old numbers. If new information has been submitted, it will be there. Is the RFS 1% surcharge now included in the financial obligations report? We believe so. How do you search communication center numbers associated with the specific, that's the one we just asked. Okay. So we have, so the people who we will get back to you the next couple of days with the answers. And we will now our next speaker is Scott Tyrell. He will be discussing how to submit a CDN and ISRA GIN online. This is also important because they will become required submissions, and it's important to know how to do this correctly.
Okay, thank you for coming in the bad weather. Thanks everybody online. Like Lynn, thank you Tyrone. So for today's training, we're going to go through the steps necessary to submit a CDN or GIN through online service. We had previously given a training on this. In that training, we did it for new users, and we separated out the GIN and the CDN, when in reality, they're basically the same service. So here we put them in one presentation to shorten it up for you. And we're focusing on LSRPs, where the other ones, like I said, we were doing for new users. And LSRPs and the LSRPs that have staff, we have received approximately 50,000 submissions from LSRPs online to this point. So we feel like there's a lot of experience out there using DEP online. We're preparing to make the CDN and GIN mandatory, and we wanted to get this this presentation out there and available so that people could refer to it. So a CDN is required to be filed within 14 days after discharge of a hazardous substance, and that's reported to the DP's hotline there, and that will create the communication center number that we talked about earlier. So the incident gets called in and creates the communication center number, and that's the format of the communication center number: year, month, day, hour, minute, second. So that's what that number means. It's the instant that the person picks up the phone in the hotline is what that number is. So for the GIN service, use the GIN service online to notify the DP when an ISRA triggering event has occurred. And we have 5 days to notify, to submit the GIN after the triggering event has occurred. And in the service, we'll go through what some of the triggering events are. Okay. Okay.
So here we are again. Feels like I was just up here. So the GIN is required to be submitted within 14 days of the triggering event. Is that true or false? Wow. Let's see how it goes now. Okay. So the audience has made their claim, and now we have to wait for all of the people who are taking this online on the webinar to answer this question. Seems like it's a little more tricky than everybody else, than the other questions, rather. You need to look at the type of submission and the number of days, and do they match? So this was my third test question. We do not have any coming any more upcoming hot topics that I can tell you about. So we're looking forward to if anybody has any suggestions, you can email them through the webinar or on your course evaluations. We have 4 seconds left to go, and we are good. So the answer to this question is false.
Excellent. So I should just go ahead? Okay. Just for those keeping track at home, I have about 40 slides left, so you can count them down. And I'll try to keep you awake. So after a CDN and GIN is submitted, the information goes into DEP's database, NGEMS, and the information either updates an existing case or it'll create a new case. So depending on your selections in the services, the case will be created with the correct remedial timeframe tasks based on the user's choices in the service. So we're going to skip around a little bit, CDN and GIN, like I said. For submitting a CDN, there is one CDN that cannot be submitted online. If you're required to file a CDN, but only for contaminated historic fill material, if that's the only AOC, do file the paper CDN. There's a checkbox on the paper CDN for contaminated historic fill. If you have questions about whether you could file online or should file a CDN online, or whether it's appropriate to file for the historic fill, you can contact BCANE and they can help you with that.
Question?
Wait, can you call the question? Please hold your question. We'll hold the questions until the end.
Oh, sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so for the CDN, after the incident is called in and the Comm Center number is generated, the incidents have to be evaluated by DEP to determine whether they can be made available for the LSRP program. So if somebody calls in about a bear in their backyard, we're not going to make it available for LSRPs, to pick, as an incident, because you got to realize that's a lot of the incidents that get called in. So SRP evaluates incidents that are called in and then sets them up to be picked by the LSRP if that's appropriate. So from Tyrone's talk, you can search Data Miner for the incident and determine whether the follow-up status is pending LSRP. And if the follow-up status is pending LSRP, that's the green light for going ahead and filing the CDN. If it's not set to pending LSRP, it could be set to UHOT or exempt or ER, for example. But the LSRP feels like it's an LSRP incident, then you can contact BCANE and talk to them about that specific incident. Okay, so for preparing the CDN, we're getting ready to submit it. Oh, so sorry, going to the GIN. So getting ready to submit the GIN online, you need a scan of the tax map, with the appropriate block and lot on it turned into a PDF. And then have a PDF of a scaled site map. Have those ready to go to be uploaded. So just as a note, I'm going to come back to this again. The CDN or GIN can be prepared by one person and certified by a different person, but only if an existing facility is picked. The facility link is the way that users can share a specific site or service in DP Online. So if you didn't pick a facility, there's currently no way to step in and certify that service. So some LSRPs have staff or other companies prepare services for them, then they go in and review it and certify it. But you can only do that if you have picked a facility during the service. So for the CDN and GIN, we're going to download and complete the authorization form for CDN or GIN submissions through DP Online form, and that gets signed by the person remediating. If necessary, set up a DP Online account, and then complete the CDN or GIN online service. So the SRP forms page there with that link is where you would download the authorization form. And note that the CDN and GIN online frequently asked questions are there, and also the CDN and GIN online instructions are there as well. And those aren't instructions on how to determine whether you should file a CDN or whether you should file a GIN. They're instructions about how to get through the service. So when we actually go into the service, you'll have links that can help you to determine whether you should be filing a CDN or whether you should be filing a GIN. So that's what the authorization form looks like, and that's the entirety of the form there. It's the person remediating authorizing someone, including themselves, to go ahead and file the CDN or the GIN. So this gets a wet ink signature on it, so it needs to be printed out, signed, and then photographed or scanned and PDF so that it can be put back into the service and uploaded. So for those people that don't have a DP Online account, you can go to this web address. It'll bring up this page, and note there's instructions on how to register there. So that top link is instructions on how to register. It has screenshots in it. It'll lead someone straight through setting up an account. The circle below that is what you would click to actually start, setting up a DP Online account. As I mentioned, we've received around 50,000 submissions from LSRPs, so most of you already have accounts. Tyrone told you earlier how to search for a facility. For the CDN and GIN, if you can find a SRP facility, it will make your submission go faster on our end. It can actually go straight in on certification under certain conditions. You'll receive an acknowledgement letter right away if you happen to find the facility. So if you have the facility, you can go into your workspace and then click Add Facilities to add the facility. And this page would come up. You would choose Site Remediation in the drop-down, right? Because if there's a different facility, like an air facility, it doesn't help us in the CDN or GIN service. But if there's an SRP facility, you can add it to your workspace. So you enter the facility ID number and then click Search. Okay. So after you click Search, you end up with this page. If you had picked a single ID number, you'll end up with a single row. You can also search there for a name too, but it's very difficult to search by name there. And as a matter of fact, if you even leave a space after the name, it really won't come up with anything. If that's your facility, you click the checkbox and you click Add Selected Facilities. Okay, it'll bring you back to your workspace. You need to set up the services that you want to run. Now, a note for LSRPs here. You notice the top link is LSRP related services, and you might be thinking, why are the CDN and the GIN not in LSRP related services? Well, the reason is that LSRPs are not required to certify the CDN or the GIN. So, the property owner, the business owner, can also certify these services if need be. But because of the authorization form within the service, it allows an LSRP or an agent to certify these services also. So to add the services, the CDN or the GIN, you would have to click Configure Services, check them off under the Site Remediation Program, and then click OK, and then it will bring back here with the services added to your workspace. And then you just click on them to start the service. And there's a little blow up of what that looks like a little bit larger. Okay, so this is the instruction page. We have the CDN and the GIN instruction page. It's worth, especially the first time reading through these. And these both have links that you can click that'll lead you to our web pages that will allow you to determine whether you should be filing a CDN or to get the information that you need for the GIN, for example. So you would read the instructions and click continue. So the next page, I have the CDN up top and the GIN below. So it's the same page, service selection. So the service selection drives what case is created, and what case is created drives what reports are due, okay? So in the top you have confirmed discharge notice, discharge from regulated US system only. Okay, so if you have a regulated US and you have a discharge from it, you would choose that link. And if there's an US registration at the facility, that's an indication that the US are regulated. There could rarely be unregulated US in the registration, but for the most part, they'll be either state or federally regulated underground storage tanks in there. So the other choice for CDN is a non-US discharge. So that would be some kind of a spill, for example. And then down below we have GIN. We have a new GIN or a GIN amendment. So what happens when you pick these is if you pick the regulated US, for example, that will set up a case that has a requirement to submit an SI, right? If you pick a new GIN, that'll set up a case that has a requirement to submit a PA, a preliminary assessment. If you pick the CDN non-US discharge link, you'll get a case that has an RI requirement, as one of the first reports that's due. It skips the PA and the SI and goes straight to the RI. So this drives everything in the cases going forward. So obviously it's critical that these are picked correctly. So there's the CDN discharge from regulated US and all other non-US spill-like discharges. And then you have the new GIN and the amendment to the previously submitted GIN. Okay, next page will be facility selection. Hopefully in Data Miner you found your facility, but you may not have. So you can, if you had to add the facility to your workspace to see it in this next page. So you can pick the facility from the list, but if you don't have a facility, there's an option at the bottom, I do not wish to use a facility in my profile. And in the circle is that I do not wish to use a facility in my profile. I have to say, we've received a lot of CDN and GINs where there really is an SRP facility out there. So the process has been slower for people getting their confirmation letter and getting going and being able to file, the next forms that are due, the retention form and the fee form. So it is worth checking in Data Miner, as Tyrone showed you, to try to find that SRP facility. So you're going to either pick it or not pick it and then click continue. So the next page is submission name, and this allows you to identify your submission in your workspace. It's where you name it essentially. But the difference between this and other services is, especially when you don't pick a facility, you're actually going to name the facility here, for us. So you're going to put the business name for the GIN and the name of the facility, if it's a discharge for a CDN. We want you to add comments here if possible to help out DEP staff, should aid your submission. And eventually the comments in the GIN service will be mandatory. and we would like you to describe the reason for the GIN submission. So we're going to click continue. Okay, next is going to be case selection. So if the case selection page appears, and it appears for it could appear for CDNs, and it always appears for a GIN amendment. You have to pick a case for a GIN amendment because you're amending an existing case. For CDNs, should you pick the case that's there? Well, the flip side is, when shouldn't you pick it? If the responsible party for the discharge is different, you shouldn't pick any case that's there. If the remedial timeframes for the new incident can't be met with the existing timeframes, don't pick the case. If you can't answer these questions, you should probably call VCANE and ask for clarification. They can, if you don't pick the case and you think you might have to pick the case, they can actually combine the case later. So, but it's better for you to call them and get that taken care of up front, because it's a lot of work for them to combine the cases later. So here's what that page looks like. Normally there wouldn't be 12 or so cases there, but this is our test area. There is 1 or 2 facilities out there that have this many cases. So in case selection, here's an expansion of one of the rows. And some key information in here is the case name, which sometimes is just a facility name, but you could have a facility that's currently a Shell service station, but the case name was BP from 1993, right? So the case name will say BP, and you'd be like, oh, that's my BP, that's my case. And the document title, you'll notice there we have a Comm Center number in the document title. So there's often, at least, if there's Comm Center numbers to be had, there could be Comm Center numbers, there could be ISRA numbers, there could be UST closure numbers, they're in the document title. And it's not there to list every incident number, every closure number, every ISRA number. It's there to list really the first one, as the first case identifier. We just can't fit everything in there. So there you chose to pick a case, or you didn't pick a case. If you don't pick a case, you may end up at this page. And this is the responsible entity page. And this lists a set of responsible entities that would be at a PI, at a facility. And sorry, I'll use those terms interchangeably sometimes. So we were trained to use PI, all through my career, and then DP Online uses facility throughout and doesn't really use PI. So if you see an exact match to your responsible party, you should pick it here. If it's not an exact match, including not the same address, don't choose the responsible party off this list. And click continue. Next page is additional site information. And this is really key. This will come in if you picked a facility, this will come in pre-populated, and you're just verifying the information for the facility. So the top part is the address information. This is the street address. This is not a mailing address. So we've had some submissions recently where it looks like somebody thought this was a mailing address, and that's terrible. So this is the street address. It's the site information, or the additional site information. It has to be the street address here. So if you didn't pick a facility, you'll end up filling out this entire page, and we have 2 scrolls here. This is the upper part of the page. You would fill out the address fully, and you would give us the case name, what you want that case going forward to be named. And again, that'll be pre-populated if you picked a case already. So critical, put in the street address here, county and municipality. If the facility is in more than one county and municipality, there's check boxes for that. You would check those off. Okay, so once you populated the address information, we'll scroll down to the bottom. The top screenshot shows what you would see if you picked a facility. It'll show you a map of the facility. You can verify right there that you're on the right facility. The bottom part is if you didn't pick a facility, it's asking you for the X and Y coordinates. The nice thing about this service is if you didn't have the X and Y coordinates available for you, you can go search for them. If you put the address information in, you can click the Launch GeoWeb button, and it will haul off and open another tab in your browser where GeoWeb is. So we'll go ahead and do that. Remember, this works only if you've populated the address already, the street address. So GeoWeb opens. So this is typically the way GeoWeb looks when it opens. Let me see if I can go. I have another page in here. I don't. And there'll be a blue dot in the middle if your address was good, if it found your address, and it'll be sitting right on top of that address. You can click the little eyeball in the lower right-hand side, and that will give you coordinate information. So for the coordinate information to work, you have to hover your mouse over the blue dot that you had before, and for GINs, you should be hovering it over the building. So you would hover your mouse and then carefully write down the X and Y coordinates. Just write down the first 6 digits of the X, first 6 digits of the Y. Don't mix them up, because you're going to come back and you're going to click the other tab where you have your service running, and you're going to input the X and Y coordinates. So you're going to come back here, and you're going to put that X and Y coordinate in the middle there. And then you're going to enter the blocks and lots in the block and lot information below. And if you have a multi county or multi-municipality situation, the county and municipality drop-downs will be enabled. If not, it's going to be the county and municipality for the street address that you put in above. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and you're going to either verify or enter, and it's the tax blocks and lots. So you're going to look at your tax map for your GIN and make sure you get the tax block and lot in there correctly. Okay, so everything comes back here. It's a way to verify. And either way, if you didn't have a facility or you did have a facility, you end up at this page with a picture. And it has the county and municipality at the top. Make sure it's on the business, that picture shows the business right there. Because that's key. It's really going to be a problem if the business is not showing in that picture, or the discharge location or the discharge facility for CDNs. So you have questions there that you have to check off that you certify to those questions. So the GIN has 3 questions, and the CDN just has a verification of the location. So one of the GIN questions is a notice. The GIN notice will be provided to the municipality. And later, we're going to show you how to easily do that. But the key is that this map is showing the business in the correct municipality. So you're going to verify that for sure before checking off these boxes. Okay, so okay, skipped ahead, right? No. Okay, so next page for CDNs, what would appear is the Comm Center incident selection. So we're going to put in the communication center number. We found it from Tyrone's report earlier, and it will only bring back the detail information for the incident if the incident status is pending LSRP, as we described before. If the incident status is not pending LSRP, you'll get a red message that says the service can't find the incident. So if you get a red message about your incident, you're contacting BCAN and asking them what's going up, or you're looking it up back in Data Miner and seeing what the incident status is. Again, commonly could be set to UHOT, to ER, and you'll need to get that corrected to pick it in the service. So you'll put in the Comm Center number and you click search on the right hand side. sometimes there's rare instances where you get nothing, not even an error message when you click search. So click it again. There's an odd thing in there. Sometimes you just have to click it again. And then the bottom will populate with the information if the incident is set up properly to be picked by LSRPs. Okay, so once we have that, then we go to context. So for the CDN, you're going to provide the property owner and the responsible party. GIN contacts are property owner, business owner, responsible party, and authorized agent. And there's also a potential buyer contact. So in the screenshot, I have highlighted the potential buyer contact. And you'll notice there's a red button with a white X in it. Right? So if there's no potential buyer related to this trigger, then just click that red dot, that red X, and it'll make the that contact tab go away. Everything with a green check is required, but you can click the red X on that one contact to make it go away, and please do that if you don't have a potential buyer. For GINs especially, the property owner and the business owner are both responsible parties. So you notice there's one responsible party tab here, and we would like also, if the property owner and the business owner are different, if you could add them into, add the responsible party tab a second, for that other person, that would be a big help for us. You can add responsible party contacts. In the lower left, there's an add contact dropdown. You would choose responsible party from the dropdown and then click add contact to add the contact. So once you have your contact set, you can click continue. Before I leave this page though, I just want to mention that if there's an error message, there could be an error message on say tab 3. The error message will say business owner is missing the email address or something like that. But it will not focus on the contact tab, so it can be kind of confusing. So you have to make sure to read the error message and then click the tab that it's referencing. Okay, then we're in the CDN details, and we have a couple of questions. Is the discharge related to regulated US? Remember, before we said that it's actually, before we said that, you chose earlier in the service whether it was regulated US or not. And here you're saying it's actually whether it's related to federally regulated US. So there's a link there for regulated US fact sheet to determine whether it's a discharge from a federally regulated US or not a federally regulated US. And I'm not going to go through what is federally regulated or what's not, but if I had a service station and it was a discharge from regular unleaded gasoline tank, that would be federally regulated US. It's very important that you choose that correctly because this drives our reporting to the EPA on federally regulated US. So it's really critical that you get that correct. So this shows when the answer is no, and you just have to say no, and then there'll be a spill act discharge row, and you'll give us the date, which should be the discharge date if it's known, closest if it's not known. And then next page we're going to show this.
No. See, the next page is your last test question. Is a link provided to the regulated US fact sheet? And let's see, what do people think? Was there a link provided to the regulated tank fact sheet? So our members of our audience here in Trenton have answered our question. And now I just need everybody else who's listening to the webinar to answer the question. This is your last test question, everybody. So yay, we're almost done with this. I hope the weather hasn't gotten it hasn't gotten worse since we've been here. So I'm kind of getting scared how I'm going to be driving home. So we have 25 seconds to go. Looks like most people have answered this question, which is good. For those of you who you need to go back and check the previous page, you can do that, I think, or not. But it was on that page. We discussed a link. So we have another few seconds to go, and I will be turning this presentation back to Scott. And the answer is true.
Okay, so if you said yes, this is a discharge from a federally regulated UST, you'll get to give us the source of the release and the cause of the federal release. Some of the examples of the sources are piping, tank, vent, and the cause of the federal release might be a spill, damage, or corrosion. For example, there's a few items in the drop-down that you can go through, and in both of them, there's unknown, also. So if you don't know, you can always choose unknown there. That gets all reported to the EPA. If you do choose discharge from a federally regulated UST, the page forces you to add, you click add row and you add regulated UST case type. If there isn't one existing, if you picked a case earlier, you may have case types that are existing, and if you have spill act or regulated UST, then you don't have to put those in again. But if you don't have them, it'll force you to put them in. So it's very straightforward. It'll take care of you. So we're going to populate that and click continue. So if you chose from a federally regulated UST, it's going to show you the USTs from the registration. Anything that was existing at the facility, either current or in the past, will be shown. You choose one or more USTs, give us a piping length, and then click continue. Okay, and this is where the GIN details would appear. The first red arrow is a drop-down where you pick entire site or leasehold. The second red arrow is pointing to the NAICS ID, NAICS description, NAICS type row. We really only need the primary NAICS related to the trigger. You can add more rows if you want to, but it's not necessary. There is a little trick in here. Somebody called up last week and said, I can't find my NAICS in that dropdown that I use. There's a lot of NAICS codes in that dropdown, and they're all ISRA subject. If you already know the NAICS number, you just click the dropdown and start typing the NAICS number in, and it'll scroll right up to your number. So you can type the 6 digits straight in, and it'll come right up to your number. So that's the little trick there. And if you don't know the number, then you can scroll the list. There's a couple of, the list is actually alphabetical so that you can scroll through and look for it. But realize there's 10 or 20 numbers that are listed under all other and then some type of activity. So you may need to look in the all other sections to find what you need. There are, again, ISRA links on this page that link out to EPA that can help you search for the appropriate NAICS numbers also. So, but again, everything in that dropdown, there's no guessing, they're all ISRA subject. So it takes out a lot of the guesswork of the NAICS numbers. And that's one of the biggest advantages of the service. Okay, next, if there's previous ISRA or ECRA numbers, you would put that in at the first arrow. And then the second arrow is where you have the transaction type. So this is the trigger. So there's the top section's for bankruptcy. The middle section is for cessation. And in the bottom, we have rows that can be added for partner change, property sale, sale of assets, stock transfer, and business sale. So that's what's in that drop down in that last row. And then you would give us the actual trigger date and then a finalized date if you have one. Okay. So we're getting near the end. We're getting there. So I just want to mention that this is actually, the services are in slightly different order, and this is where the GIN contacts would appear. They appear after GIN details. So this is, if you're like, where are my contacts? This is where they actually would appear in the GIN service. So for the attachment upload, the GIN requires the tax map and a scaled site map, and then also the authorization form. So there's 3 uploads to be done for the GIN. The upload page for the CDN looks slightly different than this. It's a little bit simpler, and it'll just have one row where you click the upload button and grab your authorization form and put that on there. I just want to mention, if for some reason you have enormous attachments, enormous file sizes, sometimes if you exceed the file size, which I think 5 megabytes or 10 megabytes for the whole thing, you'll get no feedback. Like nothing will happen, and then you'll know to check your file sizes. But so far we haven't had anybody with any file size issues. All right, near the end. So this is the certification page. This is the opportunity, if you had picked a facility and you have somebody preparing these for you, they could exit the service at this point. Sometimes it's confusing for new users because when they get to the certification page and they're not going to be the one who certifies, their certification information is sitting there staring at them in the middle of the page, but it's not saved, right? It's the logged in user that it's showing, and the information only gets saved in certification if they certify. So on the right-hand side, there's a little icon that doesn't look really like a button. It looks like a little sheaf of papers, but it's critical. In the red circle is the view button. And for users that prepared the service or somebody coming in to certify the service later, it's really critical that you click that view button and review all the information that you just entered in the service, especially if there was some interruption and you came back to it. Go ahead and look at that and make sure it has everything that's supposed to be in there before you certify. If it's not exactly the way that you need it, the person who prepared the service can use the progress bar on the left-hand side to go backwards to previous pages and correct the information, and then go back forward through the service again to certification. But it has to be the preparer that makes the changes. So if you're satisfied with the information when viewing it, then you would answer a challenge question that you had set up when you set up your account. You would enter the PIN number that you got when you set up your account. And I think I didn't say it before, but when you set up your account, you need to write down those numbers. You need to write down your user ID, your password, and your PIN. It's 3 pieces of information that you need to be successful on DP Online. So you're going to enter your PIN number, you're going to click Certify, and after clicking Certify, the summary page will appear. This is the top half of the summary page. And again, you could scroll down through and make sure it was everything that you wanted, but it's already submitted at that point. And it's essentially gone to DEP. So if you didn't pick a facility, or you added a responsible party in the service, when you go back to your workspace and your service is submitted, the service will say submitted pending DEP review. And what happens in there is a staff person will go through and try to find if there's an existing facility at DEP that they can match the submission to, or there's existing responsible parties that they can match the submission to, so that we don't duplicate a lot of data. So that's what that's doing. So usually it can be a few days as they work through all of the submissions, but the certification date is the submission date. So it can be sitting in there, submitted pending DP for a week, and when they finish the matching process, you get credit for the date that was actually the service was certified. So like I said, the department tries to match the submission to existing facilities, and somebody from BCANE may reach out if they have any questions. And once they have completed their review and they've done their matching, in your workspace, the service status will go to submission successful, and an email will go out to the contacts that are in the service, and also the certifier, and if it was a different person who prepared it, it'll go out to them too. Like I said, the receive date of the submission is the date the submission was certified. So that's the beauty, especially for the GIN, is if you have 5 days, you can go in on the evening of the 5th day and still make that deadline where you wouldn't be able to otherwise. So for GINs, when they go to submission successful, 2 emails go out. One is an acknowledgement email with an acknowledgement letter that shows next steps. The other is an email that actually has the GIN summary that you saw earlier. So it has the summary attached to it, a summary PDF. And that essentially is the GIN submission. That can be printed out and mailed to the municipality as the GIN form. And it could be that some municipalities may even accept that as an email. You'd have to check with the municipality. I, of course, can't guarantee that. Once the service goes to submission successful, LSRPs can immediately retain by picking the case that was created. They can run remediation fee services, and they can do all the remedial phase services except REO at this time. So they'll be able to run through, and we've had people submit CDN and GINs, and then LSRPs submit CDN and GINs, and then the same day go in, do the retention, submission, and then run the remediation fee service all in the same day. Okay, so I just wanted to throw in a couple of things at the end, just to make sure that they got addressed. So we're switching away from the CDN and GIN for a second. For remedial phase services, EDDs can either be, they're electronic data submissions, they can either be emailed in or they can be attached to services. But the EDD folks are having trouble with it being both. So try to do one or the other. We prefer it to be attached to remedial phase services like the RI, for example, because the LSRP picks the facility and the case, and that's much better for the EDD folks to be able to slot their submission into the right area. But don't do both. And if you had submitted it by email, when you get to a remedial phase service, just bypass it because they already have it. The Remedial Action Work Plan service, the RAW. In the RAW, it's possible for you to upload the groundwater permit by rule authorization, but be aware that if that is uploaded or it forces an upload for that a bill will be sent out to the fee billing contact for $350 for the review fee, for that submission. So we've had some situations where people had submitted it previously to doing the RAW, but then did the RAW and attached it again, and they get another bill. So you definitely want to be aware of that. Don't do both. Okay, last items. For the SIDS, we're having people getting a lot of corruption in the SIDS, where the internal programming of the SID gets broken. And I just want to emphasize that if you have a 1.3 version SID, you're not being forced to paste it into version 1.4. 1.3 can be uploaded and will work. And a lot of times people take the entire thing and paste it into 1.4 and they break it. So there's ways to transfer the information over. You can contact us if you feel like you have to put it in 1.4, but you don't have to put it in 1.4. You can keep it in 1.3 forever if you need to. if we keep getting broken SIDs, we're going to have to release a new SID that can't be broken. So please be aware of that. Inspection and review asks us to, again, you may have a site with multiple cases dealing with different incidents, for example, and different, say, responsible parties, for example. And you want to make sure, because you want to close that case, that the AOCs that get uploaded to that case are for that case and not for the other cases, because it's going to make it very difficult for VIR to understand what AOCs relate to which responsible party at that facility. For the SID, there's an incident column number. The incident column number is only to contain communication center numbers that we talked about before. Don't write NA, don't put ISRA numbers, don't put closure numbers. And if there's more than one incident per AOC, it has to be separated by a comma. Only a comma, not an and, not an A and D, a comma, and that's it. We've had a lot of cleanup to do on that. There are instructions for the SID. A lot of people don't know where the instructions for the SID. They're in the SID. So there's a tab in the SID that's called instructions. So you can go ahead and look at the instructions in the SID. There's also a tab in the SID that gives a really nice example of the way a SID should look like. So you can look at those two tabs and it'll be really helpful with the SID. Questions?
Okay. I will start again with the people here in the audience. There is one question.
I actually have three, but we'll start with one. You mentioned at the outset of the presentation that if you're going to put a CDN in for historic fill only, you need to file it in paper and not file it online. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is that going to change in the future?
We don't have any plans to change that in the future. The CDN was built before there actually was that for historic fill. So we're not sure that it's worth doing based on the number, but we'll have to keep evaluating that.
Second question, if you're working on a site and you discover what I would call historic contamination, there's no indication from an unknown source and you don't know the responsible party, but you still want to go forward and open a case and remediate, how do you handle that in your CDN?
Can you pass that to Lynn? I think she might have an idea.
If you have a new incident, a new discharge that you find on the site and you don't yet know what the source of the contamination is, you call it in. And then when you find out the source, you can call it in again, saying with the corrected information.
And would you reflect that in the CDN that's actually filed? In other words, unknown source in the description dialog box on the second page, I think it is? Okay, that's good. And third question, final question, can non-LSRPs submit CDNs and GINs?
Absolutely, yes, they can, definitely. The authorization form covers the signatory responsibilities, and they're very strict for the GIN, so that's why that form has to be uploaded in the service. So the owner or operator, for example, the business owner, the property owner, somebody like that would be able to submit it. The agent, is often submitting GINs to us now.
Well,
and a lot of LSRPs. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I understand that the slides for the people listening to the webinar, got stuck on the last poll question. We will be uploading the slides, the entire presentation to our training website next working day in the department here, which looks like it's probably not going to be tomorrow. My screen locked. We seem to have a couple of these questions. I apologize for any problem, but hopefully we will be able to get you a clean version of that for you to look at a later date. Can we go back to the first question that we have here? And I hear they closed 295. That's not good. Can we go back? Oh, good. Can we go back to the top question? If you're filing a CDN for an off-site contribution, migrating onto your site, you select a facility from the list. That seems to be like a really good question.
That's a good question. I think we should probably get back to them about
We will get back to you when we get back to the office.
I have a gut feeling, but I don't want to say anything for gut feelings for these.
Okay. I use Firefox. I just tried it with cases with no LSRP. It doesn't open with PDF or Excel. Is Firefox one of the ones?
Yeah, Firefox is a supported browser. Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer. We've also been able to use Edge, which is packaged with Windows 10.
So if it does not, if you have a problem with using a particular instance, you can contact.
Yeah, you can. What I forgot to mention was in the service, there's a help link on the upper right-hand side of every page, and you can click that help link and then send an email to Portal Comments, and we'll help you out with any issues that you have. I'm not sure what you mean with doesn't open with PDF or Excel. I'm just not sure what that means.
So please contact us again.
Yeah.
On location information, how should we handle a site that doesn't have an address for a lot and block?
That's a great question. So for CDN only, for a business has a block and lot, I don't think we run across any that doesn't. So we don't handle that for GINs. But for CDNs, there's a location description. And if you populate the location description, then you do not need to put in block and lot information. And you don't need to put in the address information either, but you do still need coordinates. So, you can work with us about how to get coordinates if you don't have an easy way to get coordinates. But you would fill out the location description box.
Is there any other questions? Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so the slot, keep going down. When will the online service be mandatory for the CDN and the GIN?
We're still discussing when to be mandatory. It has to be published in the New Jersey Register, and then it can be mandatory 90 days after publication in the New Jersey Register. So we're just checking with BCANE and making sure that they're comfortable with what's happening before we make it mandatory. And there could be a couple caveats to mandatory. For example, as we discussed already, for the historic fill only CDNs, we have no way to handle that right now online.
If we bypass the EDD during submission of an RI, do we get an incomplete notice?
The EDD is not wrapped up in the incompleteness of the RI, so you can bypass the EDD, and as long as you didn't bypass any of the other required submissions, it'll still be administratively complete.
Can a non-LSRP certify CDN and GIN submittals? I believe we just answered that.
Yes, we answered that, yes.
Is there going to be a way that missing submittal information, bypassed forms, or EDIs could be added to an existing online submission in lieu of sending in a CD?
Not right now.
So the answer is that no, not at this time.
Not at this time.
This law, anything?
Can I caveat that? I mean, the submission comes in, and suppose that you didn't know that you missed something, BIR would normally reach out and ask you to email it to them. So, you'll be able to add to the submission in most cases, unless it's something critical. But that's going to be it's in BIR's hands at that point.
If you've done a PA and proceed to the SI non-ISRA vacant site under existing LSRP oversight and identify multiple AOCs, which are historic spill act releases from former operations, not IEC cases, do you file one CDN or multiple ones? It's a good question. I believe if it's a non-ISRA site, you call in discharges and then confirm discharge notification forms for all of your spills that you've identified.
Right, I believe so.
The second part of that question is, should you report these when the next remedial phase report is submitted or when the SI results confirm the discharge? They get reported when the SI confirms the discharge. And then GIN submittal on the GIN. I guess that's not a question. Is that the end of the questions?
I think there might be one more.
Oh, we keep going. SIDS are to be completed by the LSR activity when you have an ISRA site merged and ends up with more than one LSR activity. Can you put all the LSR activities on one SID?
We're going to have VIR address that.
I agree.
It's a little bit different for ISRA. I know we have the way that we think we should be going with that, and we'll answer that question.
Depending on our.
Yeah.
In LSR activities equivalent to the case, the term case appears to be used for multiple things: PI, communication center, and LSR activity. That is correct. We are using the words case to mean different things. This presentation, we're terming case to be the LSR activity. Correct?
Right. It's the LSR activity that you see in there. And the LSR activity can contain multiple communication center numbers. It can contain multiple ISRA numbers. It's really how, it's all put together by BCANE, in conjunction with the LSRP, essentially.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming here to Trenton and for listening online to the webinar. Be safe.
Oh, safe drive, you guys.
This presentation, I thought would be. We have few people here. It's because if I was listening to the presentation, I would want to do it online with my laptop.
Right. Well, I guess we ought to start trying. Here's the report. Very good program. Thank you. And it's very useful, good information. And we're happy to come down. I wish we had to see what it's like outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Lynn.